What's going on, sci-fi fans? My name is Ben and welcome back to the bench for another episode of Sci-Fi Wednesdays. Yes, we're picking right up where we left off last time and we are continuing with our Star Wars theme. We're going to go ahead and select a brand new kit, but with a little bit of a different spin on it. So I went ahead and selected this. Now, this is a Bandai AT-ST All-Terrain Walker in 1/48 scale. If you've ever built a Bandai kit, you know these things are pretty sweet and typically go together extraordinarily well, have really nice detail, doesn't require any glue, doesn't require any paint, and you can have a lot of fun with these. But I'm going to try to do something a little bit different. I'm going to take a little bit of a different spin on that. And we'll get into more of that a little bit later. This is a very typical Bandai kit. So we've got a lot of poly bags. You've got some really nice looking molded parts. We have choices of both stickers and decals for different markings and whatnot. The detail on these things, I'm always surprised at just how much detail Bandai can go ahead and push out in some of these kits. There are some parts here that are just awesome looking. It also comes equipped with some figures. In this case, it's Chewie, and we also have a base that this thing will sit on. We have our stickers or decals, one of those too. And then we have some blaster bolts that we can also plug in to give it a little bit of action. So this is going to be a really fun build. Now let's go ahead and look at the instructions too, because Bandai kits usually have excellent instructions. Opening this up, we are greeted with a pamphlet style fold out of all of our different steps and pieces, absolutely perfectly laid out, easy to follow. So it'll show you kind of what part you're going to be working on, and then it goes through step by step, then it goes to the next part you're going to be working on, and then again step by step. So really you're building up sub-assemblies, and these are actually very nice. Kind of remind me a little bit of Lego kits. If you ever built one of those, it has that same similar kind of modular feeling, and that's really helpful. On the other side, of course, we have our color profiles of the AT-ST, some of the pictures and whatnot. Then we have the final assembly, we have our turret, all the interior, plus the base. Now, here's the deal though. Because this is an AT-ST, and because The Mandalorian Season 2 just started, I thought wouldn't it be kind of fun to change this up just a little bit. Now, if you are a fan of The Mandalorian and you've seen Season 1, you're going to recognize this. This is an AT-ST, but it is actually a repurposed AT-ST. If you notice, the paint job is very different. It's weathered, it's beaten up, totally different vibe and feel than what we would see, say, like in Return of the Jedi when we first see these things on the moon of Endor. So this is going to be a very different approach to building this kind of kit. Now, the one thing that we do see in the Mandalorians, we see that there's a red light up inside the turret, as well as a spotlight that shines right here to the left of the gun. So we have a lot of work to do because I want to go ahead and throw some wires in this and string up some lights. Now, in terms of electronics, we have these right here. These are very tiny micro LEDs. They're very small, and I've never used these before, but I hear they are pretty stellar. This is a set of about 25 or so micro LEDs. It comes with your resistors that range from a bunch of different types of voltages, but from what I understand, these right out of the package without any resistors whatsoever can handle 3 volts. And that's pretty much what I'm going to be running, because I'm going to be running 2 AA batteries at 1.5 volts each. So that should be just fine. Now, I thought what I would do here is I've never set these up before, and I'm not sure exactly which is positive, which is negative, so I'll do a little research. I'm going to pull out my LED tester that I made back when I built my Kelvin kit, hook this up and see what these look like, because I've never run these before, and I'm very curious on just how bright these are, because they are very tiny. I'm used to like 5mm or 3mm LEDs, and these are microscopic in comparison. So I have my battery pack right here that I've rigged up, and we have a momentary switch hooked in here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to twist these leads together. Now, I'm no expert in electronics, I really am not. I can't really solder very well, and I've only really lit one kit before, and that was the USS Kelvin. So this, I'm going to be trying to pull back on a few bits and pieces of knowledge that I learned from that, because this is going to be a very complicated wiring procedure. Not that the wiring itself is complicated, but how to get the wires where I need them to go in the space I have allotted, that's going to be the real challenging part. So let's go ahead and just twist these together though. Let's test out and see what the LED looks like, and push that button. Oh yeah, it works. So you can see that is actually a bright white, and that should work just fine for the spotlight. So this is nice, and it's pretty bright, to be honest. Wow, that's pretty cool. Again, if you remember from the show, The Mandalorian, we do have one scene where the spotlight is used towards the very end of the episode, and it looks pretty ominous with the red light and then, of course, the glowing spotlight through the mist. So I'm really excited to go ahead and try it out, see if I can get it to work. But this is a very simple battery pack. It's just 2 AA batteries. It's got one little momentary switch right there on the positive lead. I use it for testing LEDs and use it for testing, basic setups. and it works pretty well. So these are awesome, these micro LEDs. We have, I think, 25 of them, so we can do a lot of lighting projects, and I've got a couple of other Star Trek kits I might want to try to light. We'll have to see how it pans out, but these should be pretty neat. And like I said, it comes with a whole assortment of different type of resistors, everything from 3.5 up to, I think, 12 volt. So that's really handy to have in case you're running it on systems that pull more power. Now, in terms of switches, I wanted to initially use two different switches, one for the spotlight and one for the light inside the turret, the red light. But I'm only going to just use the one switch. It's a basic toggle switch, again, off of the Kelvin build when I replaced those switches with a different version. And we have that to use basically to flip on and off the light for the spotlight and for the internal red light for the turret. We have a ton of ribbon cables still left over from the Kelvin build. I actually purchased extra back when I was doing that to really make sure I had everything nicely wired. And that should be enough to go ahead and get the wires wherever I need them to go. In this case, we should be up inside the turret. And somehow we're going to have to thread that down through the neck, into the little sub body right there, and then out and then down the legs and then into the base, where below the base we would have hopefully 3-volt battery pack with a switch. Nothing too fancy. I'm assuming we can go ahead and pull it off. But of course, that's not all. We're going to have to also do quite a bit of scratch building as well. Now, there are some armor plates that are very roughly cut that hang off the side of the Raider AT-ST. And to do that, I've actually picked up this, and it is a very thin, almost like foil. I believe it's either brass or copper, one of those two. Got it cheap off of Amazon, and this should work really well because it's metal. It should hold its shape, and I should be able to go ahead and cut these to the proper dimensions and size to reproduce something like what we have here in the picture. Again, just extra armor plating that's lashed to the side of the turret with steel cable and whatnot. We should be able to go ahead and figure something out. So we can bend them and kind of rough them up a little bit, and I think we should be able to get something kind of neat looking. As you can see, these do hold their shape because they are metal. Again, I don't know exactly how this is going to go, but I want to try it out and we'll see how it works. But these have to go on both sides of the turret, and they have to be lashed down to different areas on top. Now, in terms of the light for the inside of the turret, I'm still kind of working with that and trying to figure it out because it's supposed to be a red light. Now, I don't have a lot of LEDs that aren't white. I have a whole pack of like 50 just bright white LEDs that I picked up for just different projects around the modeling bench, but those aren't red, they're white. So we're not really going to be able to use those as they are. This is one of my older lights that I have with a resistor already attached. As you can see, it is a bright white light, which is great if that's what you're going for, but unfortunately, we're not. We actually need it to be red. But here's my idea. If we go ahead and take a normal bright white LED and we coat it in a clear red color, is that going to tint the light? I've heard that this is an option that some scratch builders use and some modeling guys use to go ahead and tint lights down, and I'm not entirely certain. We've only put one coat here, but I thought I would go ahead and test it to see if it does tint that light, because if it doesn't, we're going to have to buy some red LEDs. But if it does work, we can go ahead and use what we have. We don't have to buy any more additional stock. Just a quick hookup there on the battery pack. I mean, it works. Again, it probably would need a few more coats just to make sure that it's nice and deep red color. We might even want to run maybe some clear styrene in front of each of those windows and then maybe paint them like a clear red with an airbrush or something. That might also kind of give us that deep red color that we're looking for. But again, we're going to have to mess around with it, try different things. That's going to be a challenge, but we'll do some research. Now, for other odds and ends, I went ahead and I picked up this milliput, and from what I understand, you can take a little bit of the blue, a little bit of the white, mix them together, and you can roll them out to make these long, almost like wires. And that we can use to maybe use some weld seams or weld beads, or maybe even do something with like maybe wires or something. I know there's a net that hangs off one of the sides. Get something that kind of looks similar to the ribbon cable, because that probably will be exposed. I've never used this stuff before, but I've heard great things, so I thought I'd pick up some and see how it works. But anyway, guys, we're going to go ahead and call it quits for today. I just wanted to go ahead and show you the project we're going to be working on here on the Sci-Fi bench for the next couple of weeks. It's going to be pretty awesome. It incorporates LEDs, it incorporates scratch building. It's going to be a really interesting and I think very fun project to see if we can't get this thing looking like we envision in our head. We've got metal parts for extra armor plating. We've got extra wires and whatnot. We, of course, have solder we can run for cabling. We can even use some of our Easy Align if we need to go ahead and kind of lash those metal plates to the side of the turret, or maybe we could use just plain old wire. So we're going to just rummage around our desk. We've got our ribbon cable set up. We've got everything that I think we need. We just have to figure out how to rig up a battery pack into the base, how to attach a switch, how to run the cables where they need to go, and how to make sure that this looks a bit more organic and heavily used. Like I said, for the battery pack, I'm going to be using one of these twin AA battery packs. These are 3 volt, so they should be really simple. As far as I know, they're not going to burn out my LEDs. I've got plenty of resistors, I've got plenty of wire, and I think we are looking pretty awesome to go ahead and get this project rolling. So until our next episode, everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm hoping you guys are as excited about this kit as I am. But until our next episode, you know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you back here on the next episode of the Raider ATST here on Sci-Fi Wednesdays. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.